Grandpa's stories. When I was a boy, my grandpa was my best friend. He was old, but he was strong and full of energy. His hair was white like snow, and his eyes were always bright. He had a big smile that made me feel safe. Every day he sat in his chair and told me stories. His stories were about his childhood, his travels, and his adventures. I never got tired of listening. His voice was warm, and his words were full of magic. In the mornings we ate breakfast together. Grandpa liked his tea hot and sweet. He always said, "Tea makes the heart warm." I laughed and drank my milk. He ate bread with honey and said, "Honey is the food of kings." After breakfast, we went outside for a walk. He walked slowly, but he never stopped. He showed me trees, birds, and little insects. He knew everything about nature and told me to always look closely at the world. On rainy days, we stayed inside. Grandpa sat by the window and watched the rain. He said, "Rain is music. Listen carefully, and you will hear a song." I listened, but I only heard water. He smiled and said, "One day you will understand." Then he told me more stories. Some were funny, some were scary, and some were full of adventure. His stories made time pass quickly, and I always wanted to hear more. In the afternoons, we worked in the garden. Grandpa loved his plants and took care of them every day. He talked to the flowers and the trees as he watered them. "Plants are like people," he told me. "They need care, love, and time to grow." I helped him pull out weeds and carry the watering can. The garden was full of colours, red flowers, green leaves, and yellow fruits. It was a small world of beauty, and Grandpa was its king. Sometimes we sat under the big tree in our yard. Grandpa told me about his childhood. He said he was a boy full of dreams. He wanted to see the world, climb mountains and sail across the sea. He never travelled far, but he found adventure in every little thing. He said, "Adventure is not only in far places, it is in the way you see the world." His words stayed in my heart, and I dreamed of my own adventures. At night, before bed, Grandpa always gave me a small candy. It was always my favourite flavour. "A sweet for a sweet boy," he said. Then he told me one last story. His stories made me dream of big adventures. I wanted to be just like him, kind, strong, and full of stories. His words made me feel special, and I knew he loved me very much. Grandpa was not just my grandpa, he was my teacher, my storyteller, and my best friend. He showed me the beauty of simple things. He taught me how to listen, how to dream, and how to see the world with open eyes. His words were like little treasures, and I kept them in my heart. I did not know then, but his stories would stay with me forever. They were not just stories. They were pieces of his life, given to me with love. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can hear his voice. His stories live inside me, and they always will. Grandpa loved to teach me new things. He said learning was like a journey. Every day, he showed me something different. Sometimes it was a new word. Sometimes it was a lesson about life. He believed that knowledge was a treasure. "A smart mind is a strong mind," he told me. His words made me curious, and I wanted to learn more. One day he gave me an old book. The pages were yellow and the cover was worn. "This was my favourite book as a boy," he said. I opened it and saw pictures of faraway places. The book was full of adventure. It had stories of brave explorers, hidden treasures, and lost cities. "Books are doors to new worlds," Grandpa told me. I wanted to step inside and see everything. In the afternoons we played chess. Grandpa was very good at it. He moved his pieces slowly and thought carefully. "Chess is like life," he said. "You must plan ahead." At first I lost every game, but he taught me his tricks. He never let me win easily. When I finally won my first game, he smiled proudly. "You are learning," he said. His words made me feel strong. Grandpa also taught me about hard work. He fixed things around the house with his hands. He never threw anything away. "Everything has a purpose," he told me. He showed me how to repair a broken chair. He taught me how to plant a seed and take care of it. "If you work hard, good things will come," he said. His lessons stayed with me. At night, he sometimes told me stories from his own life. He talked about his childhood, his family, and his dreams. His voice was calm, and his stories felt real. He laughed at his old mistakes and smiled at his happy memories. "Life is a big story," he said. "Every day is a new page." I listened carefully. I wanted to remember every word. Grandpa was more than a storyteller. He was a teacher, a guide, and a friend. He showed me the beauty of learning, the power of patience, and the joy of small things. His lessons were simple, but they meant everything to me. Even now his words are in my heart. I did not know then, but I was collecting his wisdom. Every lesson, every story, and every moment was a gift. He gave me more than words. He gave me a part of himself. Grandpa loved the sky. Every evening we sat outside and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange, pink, and purple. "The sky is always changing," he said, "but it is always beautiful." He told me that life was the same. Some days were bright, some were dark, but every day had something special. I looked at the sky and tried to see what he saw. At night, we watched the stars. Grandpa knew many stories about them. He pointed to the brightest one. "That star is a traveller," he said. "It has seen the world." He told me about sailors who followed the stars. He said the night sky was a map for those who dared to dream. I closed my eyes and imagined sailing across the ocean. Sometimes we made wishes on falling stars. Grandpa said wishes were like seeds. "You must take care of them," he told me. "A wish alone is not enough. You must work for it." I thought about my wishes. I wanted to be brave, wise, and kind, just like him. His words made me believe that anything was possible. One day, he showed me how to use a compass. "This little tool can guide you anywhere," he said. He placed it in my hand and showed me how the needle always pointed north. "In life, you also need a direction," he told me. "Find your north and follow it." I held the compass tightly and felt like an explorer. Grandpa also loved music. He could not play any instruments, but he had a beautiful voice. Sometimes he hummed an old song. He said music was like magic. It can make you happy, make you sad, or make you dream, he told me. I listened carefully and felt the music in my heart. On rainy nights, he told me stories about the sea. He talked about great ships and brave sailors. He said the ocean was full of secrets. The sea is deep, just like people, he told me. You never know what is beneath the surface. His words made me think about the world in a new way. Grandpa was full of wisdom. He found beauty in the sky, the stars and the sea. He taught me to look beyond what I could see. The world is big, he said, but your heart is bigger. His lessons were simple, but they changed the way I saw everything. I did not know then, but his words would guide me forever. They were not just stories. They were lessons, given with love. Even now, when I look at the stars, I hear his voice. His wisdom still shines in my heart. Grandpa loved the morning air. Every day we woke up early and stepped outside. The world was quiet and the air was fresh. Morning is the start of a new story, he said. Begin it with hope. He took deep breaths and closed his eyes. I did the same and felt the cool wind on my face. It was a small moment, but it felt special. He taught me to listen to nature. The world is always talking, he told me. You just need to hear it. We sat under a big tree and closed our eyes. I heard birds singing, leaves moving, and water flowing. Every sound has a story, Grandpa said. If you listen, you will learn. His words made me pay attention to little things. One day we followed a butterfly. It flew from flower to flower, moving with the wind. Life is like that butterfly, Grandpa said. It moves, it changes, but it is always beautiful. He told me to enjoy every moment. Time does not wait, he said. So make every day special. I watched the butterfly and understood what he meant. In the afternoons, we sometimes walked to the river. Grandpa loved the water. He sat by the edge and watched the gentle waves. A river never stops, he told me. It keeps moving forward. He picked up a small stone and threw it in. The ripples spread across the water. Every action makes a difference, he said. Even small things matter. His words stayed in my heart. Grandpa also loved the wind. When it blew, he closed his eyes and smiled. The wind carries stories, he told me. It has touched mountains, deserts, and oceans. I imagined the wind travelling to faraway places. One day you will travel too, he said, and you will have your own stories to tell. His words made me dream about the future. On cold nights, we sat by the fire. Grandpa told me about his childhood winters. He talked about warm blankets, hot soup, and long nights of storytelling. Winter teaches patience, he said. The cold is hard, but spring always comes. His voice was calm, and his stories made me feel warm inside. Grandpa saw wisdom in everything. He found lessons in nature, time, and even the wind. He taught me that the world was full of meaning. Every moment has something to teach you, he said. Never stop learning. His words made me curious about life. I did not know then, but his lessons would stay with me forever. They were more than words. They were gifts, full of love and wisdom. Even now, when I feel the wind, I remember his voice. His lessons still guide me, just like they always did. Grandpa believed in kindness. A kind heart is the strongest heart, he always said. He helped everyone, no matter how small the task. If a neighbour needed help, he was the first to go. If a lost dog wandered near our house, he gave it food. Kindness is like sunlight, he told me. It warms everything it touches. His words made me want to be kind, just like him. One day we saw an old man carrying heavy bags. Grandpa walked over and took one from his hands. The man smiled and thanked him. "A small act can make a big difference," Grandpa said. "You never know how much someone needs help." I watched him and understood that kindness was not just words, it was action. In the evenings, we sometimes visited the market. Grandpa greeted every shopkeeper with a smile. He asked about their families, their health, and their work. "People are more than their jobs," he told me. "Everyone has a story." He treated everyone with respect, no matter who they were. His kindness made people happy, and I saw how much they loved him. Grandpa also cared for animals. He left food outside for birds and stray cats. "Every creature deserves kindness," he told me. When I found a hurt bird, I ran to him. He gently picked it up and said, "We must help those who cannot help themselves." We cared for the bird until it was strong enough to fly again. Seeing it return to the sky made me happy. On quiet nights, we talked about the past. Grandpa told me about the kind people he had met. He said their actions stayed in his heart, even after many years. "Kindness never disappears," he told me. "It lives in memories, in hearts, and in the world." His words made me realize how powerful kindness could be. Grandpa's kindness was in everything he did, in his words, in his actions, and in the way he treated others. He showed me that even small gestures mattered. "A single smile can change someone's day," he said. "Never forget that." His words became a part of me, and I promised myself to always be kind. I did not know then, but his kindness would shape my life. His lessons were not just for me. They were gifts for the world. Even now, when I help someone, I hear his voice. His kindness still lives on, in my heart and in everything I do. Grandpa always believed in dreams. "A dream is like a tiny seed," he told me. "If you care for it, it will grow." He said dreams gave life meaning and direction. He often asked me, "What do you dream about?" I had many dreams: to travel, to write, to learn about the world. He smiled and said, "Then never stop dreaming, no matter what happens." His words made me believe in possibilities. One evening, we watched the stars. "Each star is a dream waiting to shine," he said. "Some take time, but they will shine when the moment is right." I looked at the sky and felt small, but Grandpa's words made me feel strong. "Even the biggest dreams start small," he told me. "Take one step at a time." His voice was full of wisdom, and I listened carefully. Grandpa told me stories of people who followed their dreams. Some had big dreams, some had small ones, but they all worked hard. "Success is not about luck," he said. "It is about patience and effort." He told me that those who never give up always find a way. His stories taught me that determination was the key to reaching any goal. One day, I told him I was afraid to fail. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Failure is not the end, it is part of the journey." He told me that every mistake was a lesson and that learning never stops. "If you are too afraid to try, you will never know what you can do," he said. His words gave me courage, and I held them in my heart. I did not know then, but his dreams became a part of me. His words shaped my heart, my choices, and my future. Even now, when I think of my dreams, I hear his voice. His wisdom still lights my path like a star in the night sky.